In 3, 2, 1, go ahead.
Morning, welcome to Thurston County Board of County Commissioners. Commissioners check-in for Thursday, March 11th, 2021. It is 10:01 a.m. My name is Ty Mincer, Chair of the Board. Vice Chair Commissioner Gary Edwards is present virtually, and Commissioner Carolina Mejia as well as County Manager Ramiro Chavez and Assistant County Manager Robin Campbell. Public can attend by following along on our Thurston County YouTube channel or join by conference call at 360-252-9020, pin 1234. Today's agenda begins with item 1, City of Olympia correspondence, number 1, subsection 1, RCO grant application.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioners. Good morning. Each one of you received a letter from the City of Olympia related to they're applying for an RCO grant that will be a Recreations and Conservation Office grant to purchase a property for a park. And this property is located on the UGA for Olympia, and it's located 18th Avenue off of South Bay Road. And you have with you the letter itself, as well as the information about the property is 5.9 acres. This letter is somewhat procedural, meaning when any jurisdiction or any entity is planning to apply for an RCO grant, that entity or organization needs to notice the legislative authority, and in this case the county, just to make sure to give you an opportunity to provide comments. I don't see any particular issues related to this particular application, but that's the item number 1.
Okay, Commissioner Mejia, any concerns or questions about this letter from Olympia?
I do not have any questions.
Commissioner Edwards?
Yes, sir. Just, I wanted to clarify something for the public. According to the letter, it looked like they've already acquired this property and they're looking for reimbursement for that acquisition. That's all. Oh, I have no other issues with it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yes, that is the case. Thank you for the observation.
Okay. So it doesn't sound like the board has any particular input they want to give. So I think we just
no. Yeah, in the past, and I don't feel that you need to respond as a board. It's just to make you aware, and the public's aware of the City of Olympia is applying for the Recreation Conservation Office grant. Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Well, then let's go to item 2. Another letter from Olympia from March 5th related to the climate action. It's related to the regional clean energy program that was the board discussed last year. And Ramiro, do you mind if I make a few comments about this? Just because Commissioner Mejia wasn't.
Yeah, just to frame the conversation on your packet, that is behind the letter from the City of Olympia, which is dated March 5th, 2021, is a letter dated on November 16, 2020, from the county to Mayor Cheryl Selby. The gist of the letter the county sent was related to a request from the Thurston Climate Action Team for the board to consider authorizing $37,500 to implement what they call is the TCAT, the Thurston Climate Action Team energy efficiency program. There was a couple of iterations leading to this letter, as you may recall. The board first authorized the $37,500 contingent to making sure there's some coordination with the cities. This letter was intended to have a buy-in by the cities to provide some specific information to include on the request for proposal. That was the intent of the members of the Thurston Climate Action Team. Following to that, since the Climate Action Plan was coming to you, which you approved it already, I believe the board decided to take a step back and not necessarily awarding the $37,500 until you have a much better understanding related to the strategies behind implementation of the Thurston Climate Action Plan. So the letter from the City of Olympia is in response to the letter the county sent again back in November 16th. So I just want to bring this to your attention, and
November 16th letter from the board is a good summary of kind of where things stood. But there's been confusion all along the line here between the TCAT, the cities, and the county about what this was about. So TCAT brought this to all the jurisdictions back like around June, to say that, and what they were trying to get at was partly that if there was talk about big coronavirus stimulus, economic recovery money, a la 2009, they knew the climate mitigation plan was coming, so they thought, if we could create this kind of regional clean energy and dial up projects, we might, shovel-ready project kind of thing, like we might be able to, have projects to propose for some stimulus money. It was kind of speculative, but we knew that energy efficiency was coming, was going to come with the mitigation plan. So it seemed like a good idea to maybe get a head start on that chunk of it. And the county was in the middle of a budget amendment, and we had some money in one of the commissioner's accounts, and we thought we had the capacity to do that. So the proposal was each jurisdiction, the 4 jurisdictions that were working on the climate, would each contribute $37,500, and we would launch, in advance of even adoption of the mitigation plan, a regional clean energy program. So the county did that, but the cities did not. They were working on, they weren't sure how Lacey in particular, because I talked to Cynthia Pratt and Carolyn Cox from the council, they just weren't sure how this fit into what the funding asked that were going to come later for the mitigation implementation and exactly what was going on. So they just kind of punted on it. So nothing happened because our money was contingent explicitly on all the jurisdictions participating. Well, then TCAT came back in the fall and said, okay, we didn't convince the cities, but you guys set aside this money. We think we can get a head start on this by if you guys would take your chunk of the money and hire a consultant to design the program. And then the board mulled over that, and we decided that we would do that but the goal was going to be to create a regional clean energy program. So if the cities would, even if they weren't willing to write the check, if they were willing to sort of commit to, over the long term, participating in this and show that commitment by joining in and giving input to the consultant and sort of participating in the program design, we would go ahead and use our money up front to pay for that design. And we got back a letter, I believe, from Lacey saying they just weren't ready to do that because they're kind of the same message we heard from them earlier. They were saying, we're still evaluating the mitigation plan and what all is in there and what money we're going to have available. So we're just not going to get involved in this right now. Tumwater, I don't think, responded at all. And then Olympia here is responding on March 5th with the kind of letter that we sort of expected from the other jurisdictions, saying, yes, this is a great idea. We'd love to participate. Thank you for doing this. So that's kind of where all this stands. And I guess the question at this point is, now we've adopted the Thurston County Mitigation Plan. The steering committee is meeting a week from, actually is meeting on the 22nd to start to, prioritize strategies and get things moving. it's possible that this has taken so long that we should just fold this concept and hand this over to the climate steering committee for discussion. I'm happy to talk about that with that committee. You know, we could take Olympia's participation and do what TCAT asked and hire a consultant and design this program anyway. I mean, I guess those are the options on the table. The county's money is sitting there but not committed unless there was this participation. And like I say, this is not. I would have liked to have seen a letter like this from all three cities, and basically we've got one from Olympia. Go ahead, Commissioner Mejia.
So I have a question now. With basically all the jurisdictions having passed the climate mitigation plan, is this not something that can be discussed at the steering committee and see if maybe the other jurisdictions would reconsider?
Yeah, I absolutely, my suggestion is probably to do that. I mean, these paths, you know, one path was ahead of the other, but the trains have kind of caught up with each other now. And it just makes sense to me to fold the discussions about this kind of just melds into this kind of strategy that we're going to be implementing in connection with the climate mitigation plan. So my suggestion is probably just to let me take this concept and this letter and this idea to the steering committee and see if we can get the full regional buy-in that we need, I think, to make it effective.
Yeah,
But,
I'm in agreement with that.
okay, Commissioner Edwards, any thoughts on this?
Nope, I think you did a good job laying it all out. I'm with you.
Okay. Well, then I will just, I'll just carry this with me on the 22nd when we get going on the.
Commissioner, if I may, I have asked Jenica Machado to help us start developing some implementation strategies. So I think it will be helpful. I will ask Thomasina to include her to participate in that meeting.
Okay, yeah, I know we had very robust discussion about the attendance at the steering committee meeting. I don't think anybody is barred from it for sure. So, and Jenica, I'd love to have her there if she's got capacity. I think some jurisdictions were worried about burden on staff and whether or not there would be a requirement for a staffing member. And I think we decided there wouldn't be because they've got their own set of meetings. Basically, there's like a technical subcommittee type thing. But yeah, I think especially for the first one, and then Jenica and I can powwow about.
Yeah, that would be great. It's just to include her to start forming that that idea and build a base knowledge.
The first meeting is 3/22 at 3 p.m. and then we're going to discuss the I'm hoping to keep it on the fourth Monday at 3 p.m. but apparently there's some conflict, and so we're going to discuss future meetings at the first meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, great. So that takes us to item 2, reports on external boards and commissions. I'll start with Commissioner Mejia.
Okay. So this past Sunday, I was invited by the Zonta Women's Group to speak at the for International Women's Day, and it was they were also celebrating an anniversary for the Zonta organization. I had the honor of speaking along with Karen Frazier. On Friday, we got a little halfway through the ITA orientation. So the other one, I believe, just got scheduled, so that's going to be coming up. Like always, I'm always very thankful to the staff. On Monday, I attended the Thurston Child Care Task Force, where we had a very fruitful conversation about the future of childcare and how we as employers can look into that. And there were several ideas bouncing around, which I thought were just very, eye-opening. And it's like, how can we support our employees, but also support the people that are coming in? Of course, I know with space, that always seems to be a huge hiccup, but one of the things that another member brought up is I believe that other jurisdictions. I believe Cowlitz is looking into it, partnering with private childcares to provide it almost as a benefit to their employees. So I thought that was interesting, and I'm kind of curious to see where they go forward with it. So that was on Monday. Then I had a really interesting conversation in regards to the efforts regarding the climate action plan and a more federal level. And I was wondering do we keep track of any federal congressional bills, or are we just looking at legislative here in the state?
Oh, that was a question for me.
I'm looking at the county manager. You can't
Yeah,
tell him.
and in fact, we do track from the Washington State Association of Counties, and it just happens that I'm part of the Federal Legislative Committee as part of the WASAC, and in fact, I just met with Congresswoman Strickland this past week, and we presented our federal legislative agenda from the counties, all the counties in the state. So we do track all the federal legislation that applies to the counties, because obviously as complicated as the state legislative process, the federal legislative process is even more complex. So whether we can probably capture any climate action related legislation at the federal level, certainly we need to keep an eye on it.
Yes. Thank you, Ramiro, for that. And then I had my Pac Mountain Consortium orientation yesterday with Cheryl Fambles, and I thank you to her for breaking things down for me. And yesterday was the Transportation Policy Board meeting, and I was very excited that they are bringing talks in regards to equity and how it relates to transportation and the policy board. And so that conversation is starting with them as well. So I'm excited to see where we go from there. And then we also had an ORCA meeting yesterday. It was actually one of the shortest ORCA meetings I've been to. There were a lot of technological issues, but with all the directors' report, we still managed to finish early. So, but that's all the things to report on for this week. Thank you.
Commissioner, I wanted to maybe say also on interstate transit, I just happen to know this because I've been tracking this, the service expansion. So IT's been working on a much more limited schedule, and they're not going back to full, but there's a very significant expansion on the 21st of March. So things that were maybe once an hour are now going to, it's like doubling, things, originally every 15 minutes, it's been on once an hour, it's going to every 30 minutes. So it's getting closer back to full service and a lot of routes, and they're expanding the time. So for example, I wasn't able to get from my house to work on IT because one of the routes, 12, was just not running until like mid-morning, and they're going back to expanding the full day. So it'll be a little bit less frequent, but the full range of schedule, so that I'll be able to use it, and it should make things a lot better for folks in the community who rely on the bus.
Yes, thank you for that, Commissioner Menser. I did not have that on my notes, but yes, it was something that I spoke about, I think, with several people last week, and then of course I just blanked. Just because it is really exciting. I feel like it's a turn in waves, and it's, I don't know, it brings me hope that it kind of is bringing us kind of back to a new normal. And so just getting those services back up and them expanding on it is, I'm very excited to see. And I know they've been working with our public health to try to get their drivers vaccinated So it's very exciting, just because, as more drivers become vaccinated, I feel more services will start opening up to the public.
Yeah, I'm excited. Prior to the pandemic, I really couldn't ride the bus because I had so many meetings I had to drive around all day. But with the pandemic, and I'm really in my office, there's no reason I couldn't ride the bus. But the contracted expansion or the contracted service didn't allow me to get here in the morning. So with this expansion, I'll be able to, at least until meetings open back up and I'm driving all around the county again, I should be able to ride the bus to work, which would be great. Ramiro, since you brought up your meeting with Congresswoman Strickland, I'd be really curious what your impressions of her and what you guys talked about. Did she have interest in our issues or bring up anything aside from what you presented?
No, I think if anything, my impression is she is a strong believer of the role the local government plays, particularly counties. She was extremely receptive to some of the criteria, obviously the COVID-19 response, which the bill passed by the House yesterday. She was very supportive of providing financial help to counties and local governments. Also, we highlighted the need of the Medicaid as to how that needs to be fixed for those individuals who get arrested and they're not even qualified for the Medicaid health insurance. And that puts a burden to local jails, including Thurston County, because there is a gap in between 60 days. And she was not necessarily tracking on that, but certainly she was very open to hear some of the concerns. Obviously, for the east side of the state, we need to have some help in fighting wildfires as the climate is changing, and we have been seeing a lot of those wildfires having an impact to those communities. So I believe that she was, obviously the time was very short, and she was extremely receptive to the county's proposal. So that's probably in a nutshell the report.
Okay. Commissioner Edwards, you're up.
I guess before I give my report, I'd like to hear if the county manager had any indications about that bottleneck in the Nisqually River on I-5. Anything mentioned at all? Denny Heck was following that pretty close. I'm just wondering.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. We have highlighted the need of the bottleneck at the state level in terms of the state needs to really invest in fixing the bridge, the Nisqually River Bridge. I believe that is what you're talking about.
Yes, sir, that's it.
Yeah, we have met with a local legislative delegation for the last 2-3 weeks as part of the shared legislative agenda with all the jurisdiction, and this is one of the key projects. And in fact, we have asked at the state level to invest on the capital budget $7.5 million to finish the environmental study. And also on the long term, we asked for an additional $204 million to start implementing some of the strategies that we have. Because as you're tracking, it's not just the bridge, because most of the improvements that DOT has done or is close to be completed north of the Nisqually River Bridge. It has moved the pinch point, as you clearly stated, to the Nisqually River Bridge. But also the need is to expand the capacity, perhaps, all the way south of Tumwater. And that is really the project that we have specifically addressed to the state local legislation. Now, on a larger term, we did broach the subject with Congresswoman Strickland as to the need for invest in infrastructure as a whole. As I stated to her, being my background as an engineer, most of our road infrastructure, sewer infrastructure, water infrastructure has reached their useful life. And there is a need to start looking as to how we as a country going to start investing and maintaining what we have. And again, she was extremely receptive, whether that's something comes to fruition down the road. Certainly is an opportunity. And she stated that perhaps now the earmarking process at the federal level has resumed, which also brings an opportunity as to how specific projects can be put funding at the federal level. Did I answer your? Did I answer your question?
That takes care of it. The readiness issue is quite a big issue for Fort Lewis.
Absolutely.
Denny Heck was very involved in that. So just want to stay on track with that as much as we can. As far as my committee reports, about the only thing I can really say was of note was the Capcom activities. And some time back, we entered into an exploratory agreement with Lewis County to see if it was feasible for a consolidation with their communication center. They paid for a study to review that feasibility, and it's now been decided that it is not feasible. So it doesn't look like any more is to take place on that. We never did do any more than discussion on that anyway, and we never put any resources into that activity. It was all basically Lewis County and whether it would benefit both jurisdictions or not. And then one other issue on the Capcom issue would be we've got that cell tower out on Vale Road that's coming online, and that sounds like that's going to be very beneficial to the overall Capcom operation when it comes to medics and fire and law enforcement. So that'd be about it for my committee reports at this point in time of anything of substance.
Okay. Ramiro, I want to double back to your discussion there about the bridge. So when you say fix the bridge, is this connected to that very expensive and replacement that the Nisqually tribe has been promoting, or is this some sort of a smaller project?
No, is absolutely the case. And how I have expressed the need of this bridge is, years ago, we approached the need of fixing the bridge from two ends. DOT had the need to expand the bridge in terms of capacity. The Nisqually tribe had the need to change the bridge because of the environmental elements that the Nisqually River has. As you know, it is a pinch point from the Nisqually River, which over time the Nisqually River has started bending. Now it starts having an impact logistically on the fill of the existing bridge, but also it provides somewhat of a barrier for salmon migration. So over the last couple of years, those two elements have consolidated and where we are right now. So there is a lot of energy behind this DOT as the South-South Community Partnership, as Commissioner Edwards stated, from the readiness, but also the Nisqually tribe, from the environmental contributions this particular project will bring. And at this point, the high-level approach is to elevate the existing bridge to a greater extent to allow the river to flow more naturally. And as a result, the new structure will include the additional lanes that we need in terms of capacity. So, and that is the project that we have been presenting to the elected officials at the state level. There is a lot of energy behind that, I believe. There is a lot of understanding because a lot of legislators travel that area and understand that. And even if you put in perspective, when we have the derailment back, I believe, in 2017, that put really highlighted the need to do something with that aspect. And that included a detour into Yelm and everything else, which, you know, some of the State Highway is going to be building a couple of runabouts to help with that congestion. So certainly is a system need, but to answer your question, Commissioner Minister, yes. The proposal has the capacity needs as well as the environmental elements in coordination with the Puyallup Tribe.
Good. Well, I mean, it's a fantastic project. I mean, it's extremely expensive, and I'm not the one that crunches those numbers and knows whether we can afford it. But if it's at all feasible, it's certainly a worthwhile project from all standpoints. So that's exciting. The only real report I wanted to make was about lot. We had a meeting last night, and the board voted to authorize the expenditure of up to $50,000 for a program to pump septic out of pump sewage out of RVs that are broken down. Seattle had a program like this, and Olympia is trying to, I think, working with our folks, trying to address this issue. We have, you know, if the state's not going to let us move these RVs, and some the ones that can move can go to lot and actually dispose of their sewage themselves, but the ones that can't, it creates an environmental hazard. And so lot had created a pool of money for the biennium, and that, you know, had resulted in purchase of a couple of hygiene trailers, and we felt that there was still money in that allocation, and we felt that this fit, in fact, this fits really even closer to the mission of lot than the hygiene trailers in terms of making sure that sewage is properly disposed of. And so lot will not be doing the work. They'll basically be funding a third-party contractor that will then do this pumping. So I think that will end up being a good service that that we're able to fund through lot. I think that's about it. I don't have any other major reports from committees. So let's go to item 3 on today's agenda, which is commissioner items, if any.
Could I provide an announcement, sir?
Absolutely.
I just got the word the governor is going to have a press conference this afternoon at 2:30, where he is going to outline changes on the different phases for the reopening of the state's economy. That is going to be an interesting press conference to attend and listen, because I believe there is going to be some significant changes related to that. I don't know the specifics, but certainly it's something that will be affecting Thurston County as we move along. So anyways, I'd just like to highlight the need for all of us to watch that press conference.
2:30, did you say?
2:30, yeah.
All right. Well, I'm in a constituent meeting, but I'll have to double back with one of you guys later today.
And if not, we'll make sure we'll cover. Yeah.
Okay. Are there any commissioner items? I'll just circle back to Commissioner Mejia. Anything unrelated to boards or commissions? Just anything at all you want to address with the board?
So I just wanted to follow back on our conversation from yesterday in regards to septics. And I guess I just have, you know, we said that we were 50% in compliance, and after some really insightful conversations with constituents, you know, maybe sending out a survey on why people are not in compliance. Is it the price? Is it just because, you know, why is it? And if it is the price, maybe there's, I feel like it would give us insight on the ways to approach this. So I just wanted to throw that out there, and I don't know, maybe this is a lengthy conversation for another day. But other than that, I was just throwing that out there.
Commissioner Edwards, I think we've sucked Commissioner Mejia into the septic vortex.
Welcome aboard, right? Yeah.
Welcome.
Well, it's an interesting discussion, I guess, and I'm prepared that whenever we're ready for it to make that the discussion of the whole meeting when we have time sometime. I do. I mean, I'd like to talk about that. I would like to talk about the lake management districts and how it was really the intent of the legislature in '85 and '86 when this was put together by the legislature to recognize deteriorating water quality issues in our lakes. And it was meant to allow those people that lived on or about our lakes to become the stewards of our lakes to a degree. But the legislation was passed so that we could work with jurisdictions to make the lakes better. And I will say, in reviewing what's going on around the state, and even here locally, how many LIDs there are, how many were being talked about initially, and how many have went away that were formed, I think we are an impediment. When I say we, the county, I think we're an impediment towards good water quality issues on the lakes because we kind of penalize those LIDs as they work towards solving problems. We actually drain their accounts, if you will, through administrative activities and such. You know, we always hear about one fund cannot benefit another and those type of things, but we seem to be the only county in the state that is having that detrimental effect on LIDs. The others are all being funded with county dollars and helping, recognizing that the benefit comes in better water quality and the general public using those lakes as activities. And I think it falls right within our intentions of our guidelines as far as healthy living and such here in Thurston County. So I'd be interested in a little more information on that topic when the day comes that we can have that discussion. I think that a couple of the lake management folks that are more active should be participants in that discussion along with our staff, so we can have complete disclosure, if you will, all sides of the story. So that's my comment on lake improvement districts. And certainly before I move on, anybody else has anything to throw in on that?
Yeah, let's stop right there. So Ramiro,
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you whether you think we should discuss this now, or did you have, I don't want to step on, I know that this was, you and I touched base on this. I didn't know if you had some other plan for how we were going to
No,
discuss.
I am planning to organize a briefing with some representatives of the Lake Management District. But I have to be honest with you, you know, I think hopefully it's a productive meeting as opposed to have staff from the county and staff from the Lake Management District to just have a contentious point of view. And that is not, we have had those in the past, and that is not fruitful for anybody involved in those conversations. So I'm trying to find a way as to how that briefing can probably be productive. But at the end of the day, really, as Commissioner Edwards stated, is whether the board wants to subsidize some of those activities on the Lake Management District. At the end of that conversation, that is going to be the end result. It's not because the staff from the county just taking advantage of the Lake Management District. This is just the structure in which we are operating. We're not stepping outside of any, we're not taking any liberty to charge the Lake Management District more than what we perceive is the county code allow us to do. So if the board wants to take that information and include in the 2020 and the upcoming budget to subsidize some of those activities, that's well within your purview. And staff is not going to be in the position to say no to that, because that's the direction of the legislative authority. So to answer your question, I'm planning to have a conversation with the staff as to how we can have a productive briefing related to this. So
Yeah, I mean, I was just gonna say the same thing. This has nothing to do with the staff. The board has decided to have these interfund charges. And I had a meeting with these representatives from Lake Management District, and that was the entirety of their concern. And that's a board decision. We could decide to not do it that way. And they point out that a whole bunch of other counties don't do it that way, but that's neither here nor there necessarily. But it's not about anything staff's done wrong, in my opinion. I didn't hear them saying that. They felt that the interfund charges make basically put them in a financially untenable situation. And it's discouraged, according to them, it's discouraged at least 5 other lakes from forming LNDs, and it potentially could sink the couple that we have. And so we may just need to discuss if is that true, and do we want to subsidize it, in order to keep them viable? Is that necessary to do and something we want to do?
yeah, yes, all that. Thank you.
I do agree with Commissioner Menser. I feel, and this is a conversation I believe I've had with Robin and Ramiro about subsidizing that cost and what it would look like. But, one of the questions I brought up to Robin was, well, because it seems that many other lakes haven't decided to do this because of these interfund costs. And I asked, well, if we were to subsidize them and then other lakes were to join, what would that look like for us in the future? Because of course we want, the people there to take care of their own lakes. I think the LMDs are great, and the people there are wanting to take care of their lakes. So I don't know, I would like at the briefing, maybe have that topic, what it would look like in the future if other lakes kind of were to join on, and what that would look like. I don't know, in terms of interfund costs, and would, we would be subsidizing those as well. And so then what would the bottom line end up being for the county? And of course we want more lakes to do that, but I kind of want to do it in a way where, I see Robin has her hand up, and she probably has an answer, but maybe if more lakes were to join, maybe there would be a way to cover these costs. I'm not sure.
Robin, I was going to ask you, I'm going to make a related question, and then I'll let you respond to both, because I think they're connected. One of the things that the folks, they showed me a spreadsheet, and I think this is related to Lawrence Lake, I want to say, but they showed me this spreadsheet, and the total interfund costs for 2018 was $11,000. Then in 2019, it dropped to $7,000. And they were like, so we were going in the right direction, but they didn't really explain to me what was changed to cause that big drop. And then they're showing how it's creeped back up to 9,500 for 2021. It's projected to be over 10 for 2022. So they're arguing that we were going in the right direction, but now it's just creeping back to where it was. They didn't explain in that conversation that I had with them who decided what to change that made it drop from 11 down to 7. So I wondered if you had insight onto that, of what the board did.
Ty, could I just comment on what you're saying that would help, I think, on this issue? I know the other piece of that, because I had that same briefing with those folks, and one of the things they kept referring to was the time commitment by the FTE provided by the county seemed to be going down during that same time the other costs were going up. So that was a confusion issue as well. And I don't think they know. I think that's what the answer is. They don't know what brought that about. Okay. let's hear from Rob.
What they said to me, because that's on the other side, they did point that out, what you're saying, but they didn't have any problem, at least in the briefing that I had, they didn't have any problem with the FTE time or charge. They were talking about all the other interfund charges and how those had fluctuated, and they felt they were too burdensome for them to be.
I think it was about that time where a vehicle was assigned to the Lawrence Lake Management District, and they were paying it to the ER&R. And at that time, just about that time, the U.S. Plain Commissioner Menzer is where the board decided to take that vehicle out. And at that point, the board subsidized $20,000 for this particular lake. That was the decision of the board, a one-time subsidy that particular year to overcome the need of the ER&R contributions. That was taken by the board. I think it was before you, Commissioner Menzer. So
yeah, I didn't know
that maybe have an influence as to how they saw a drop. And since the board didn't take a follow-up action and continue to subsidize, and the costs continue to grow.
Rob,
You know, well, can I comment on that? Because that's
okay.
true. What the county manager said is true. It was an issue, and then some things changed. And I think what brought that change about is somewhere along the line, the county ended up, I don't know, through oversight or something. I think there was a horrendous maintenance bill that went against that vehicle or something. And then I think that's what brought about all that change. Again, they were expected to pay for something that was overlooked. Let's just leave it at that. I don't know all the particulars. I'm not trying to assess blame. I'm just saying, I think that's what brought that whole discussion about.
I respectfully disagree.
And say that they were at no time charged for any service that they did not receive or use. So
I'm not, I think it was the potential that was coming about that was kicked around. I think that's what brought that to a head. That's all.
That vehicle had needed to be repaired. That cost is on a 2-year lag, like we do for every county function. And the charge was coming up. The board decided to subsidize it and to remove the vehicle from the ownership, if you will, of the Lake Management District. That is one of the reasons that these costs go down. Why they dropped this specific amount in this specific year and then started to creep back up, I would have to look at the indirect records for each year, but I would definitely be able to do that and give you specifics, not in this moment, but I can bring that back to you.
For the briefing that Ramiro's going to have, I think we're going to need to address that. So,
and again, I just wanted that briefing to be productive. So give me some time just to put a thought on this. I'd just like to address what Commissioner was stated. There was not an oversight. It was just the cost of doing business. And the board at that time, hearing from the Lake Management District members, they decided to subsidize that cost of doing business. But I respectfully disagree that it was an oversight or we systematically overcharge the lakes. We don't have that ability. The staff does not have the ability, again, to step out of the bounds of the county code and the law to just overcharge any particular group. That doesn't occur.
Okay, I've just brought it out as a point of discussion.
go ahead, Robin.
I have just a question on a somewhat different line, but related. So we have 2 lake management districts within the county. Aren't there other lake management districts that have formed that are not administered by the county? Romero?
The only similar district is the other formation, which is the Black Lake, and that's a special use district. And is this, they go through the same type of formation, meaning the residents within that district need to vote themselves to get into informing a lake management district and a special use district. It's just the governance is different.
Right,
that-
they govern themselves.
But the county itself cannot form a district, at least that I know, that all of a sudden, the county is going to draw a boundary, and the county is going to take an action to form a lake management district from the legislative point of view. I don't believe that that is not allowed within the current law. It has to be a citizen-generated request. And the legislative authority just authorizes, based on the public hearing and surveys and everything else, to form that district. And I know that we have received in the last year, not necessarily associated with the Lawrence Lake, from the lake management, from the Black Lake, a group requested the board to form a lake management district. As far as I know, the law doesn't allow the legislative authority to just unilaterally create a district and unilaterally start taxing those individuals within that district without their consent.
Right. So I guess that part of the reason I was asking that question, though, is just to bring forward the concept, if you will, that residents have the opportunity to form districts that they govern themselves if they are concerned about the operational cost of having the county administer the district. They can form and administer them on their own, is my understanding. And I'm looking at Romero to check me if I'm wrong here.
Yes.
I have another comment or something that I would like to see as well.
Sorry, my mic was not on. But another comment, I guess, just to, steer the pot while we're at it, right? Is I would like to see the numbers, or how much do we spend on lakes where, public health has to go out because of algae and, and they have to go out and survey, and what's the cost for us to do that over having, and I know we can't set them, but over having LMDs and having them taking up that cost. So
Are we saving money even by subsidizing the LMD? Because otherwise it's 100% in our plate. And what do we spend on average? I don't know how to calculate some of these stats, but
yes, thank you, Ty. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we can take a look and see if that's possible to estimate.
Robin, your point there before, I think your point is that if a lake management district felt like the county's administrative costs were unreasonable, they could simply switch their model to the special purpose district, and then they could administer themselves and make it cheaper if they thought they could do that. Is that what you're saying?
That is an option for the lake management districts, but when you talk about the others that aren't joining because of our cost, they have options for sure.
Right, and that option, it was stated to the Long Lake Management District when they decided to reform again, I think 2 years ago. Because some of the same concerns we heard from the Long Lake Management District, and they certainly can vote themselves to have a self-governance. And, they tax themselves. They generate that, they elect the representation on their own, those citizens who participates on that. So those options really are available. And I could, and sometimes I do tend to agree if you look from the outside. The cost of doing business for the county and the indirect cost is difficult to explain. because, an individual gets paid an hourly rate, but the indirect cost covers the rest of the stuff. As we apply to the indirect cost, not just in all the offices and departments, that's how we fund the building reserve, the IT reserve, all that is generated by the internal indirect cost. So I understand perhaps the frustration from not just the Lake Management District, but from many citizens to understand that complexity of how county funds and budget is allocated. But again, certainly those two lake management districts have an option at any given point to request a vote by their members to move into the different model to self-governance. That will be the special use district.
Just another follow-up, Chair.
Yes, sir.
When this legislation was put together by the state of Washington in that 85, 86 area, the whole intent, and it actually states in the law, kind of like a preamble, if you will, the intent was recognizing deteriorating water quality and enlisting those folks that live on the lakes or in close proximity to help deal with that and encourage them to to form these districts and see if they can't be part of the solution to the problem, rather than the jurisdictions in which those bodies of water reside having to pick up the total cost and maybe not even have the ability to deal with that. So there's a big piece of the fact that the intent was there, that there be that they work together, not to be at odds. And if you think about it, the legislation does, and I suppose from the county code and the state legislation, does allow some of these things to be charged for. It doesn't mean that they have to be charged. And all the other jurisdictions in the state, I'm not going to say them all because I'm sure you can find one that doesn't do this, but the other jurisdictions are helping their lake management districts to solve this water quality issue for the benefit of all the community. It's not just the folks that live on or near the lakes. I mean, people come from all over, and that's part of our economic engine, is the recreation and such that goes along with things like water skiing and water sports and different activities that take place in the summertime. So everybody is using it, and I think therein becomes a reason, if you will, to work with these districts, not force them into doing other things or make outrageous expenditures, because I can tell you it is pretty outrageous. So I think if we look at the intent of the legislation, that says right in there, that's what the verbiage refers to encourage a partnership. So we'll have more to come. Sounds like.
If I may, I continue to respectfully disagree with the statements. We're not forcing the Lake Management District outrageous expenditures. Commissioner, with all due respect, those statements are not necessarily true. So, and I take that as, for some reason, you put staff in the position that all of a sudden we just charge them unreasonable fees, and we are now working with the Lake Management District. So with all the respect, that's not necessarily true.
Okay, well, I have to respond to that.
Yeah.
I disagree with you. They are outrageous fees. It's very much like what's going on throughout county government here in Thurston County. We charge 2 to 3 times more on all of our permits and fees than other jurisdictions, whether they're within the county or surrounding the county. I think that is outrageous. And I think that we need to do something about it. That philosophy exists here. We're the only county in the state that seems to be doing running things and almost running these LIDs out of existence. We used to have, I think it was Lake St. Clair and Summit Lake both had LIDs years ago when the law first passed, and it ended up they couldn't handle it and the county wasn't willing to help. Why that is, I don't know. I think that the county charges these excessive rates to make it that much more undesirable to live in rural America, where that philosophy exists that we want to force the population into the urban core. I think this is just a small piece of it. So we can agree to disagree, I guess. That's it.
That's something of, I mean, you already have development on the lakes and the water quality has to be dealt with. And so I think that's quite a stretch to say that is somehow connected to some sort of philosophy, but that's neither here nor there. Do you have any other commissioner items? Commissioner Edwards?
Yes, I do. I would like to talk about what are we going to do about these excessive fees for everything that the other jurisdictions are 2 to 3 times less, and the delays that come in the process of obtaining permits and such. I think there's a real situation here. I don't know what it is, but I can tell you, when I talk to builders around this county, they're afraid to complain because they feel they're going to be retaliated against when they come up for their next project. That's how come they're not here talking to us in public. So however we want to approach that, I'd like to see something done to help us with affordable housing or attainable housing. We will never have affordable housing if we don't have adequate housing. Those two things just don't go together. So I would like to see us working towards that solution.
So I can provide an update.
Go ahead, County Manager.
So I believe I provided an update on last week during the Board of County Commissioners. I'm working with Josh to bring a briefing in front of the commissions to bring an understanding as to how the current fees are established. It is a similar briefing that I believe Commissioner Edwards participated 3 years ago. So we're going to revisit that. But also parallel to that, you will be seeing a request for proposal for the board to authorize secure the services of a consultant to do a fee study. And that's what you approve in the budget for 2021. And in fact, just yesterday, we met with the directors of CPED, Public Works, and Public Health to expedite the process. And the process will be, hopefully, we will have a draft report from the consultant. They can be aligned when you are making decisions for the 2022 budget. Because at the end of the day, the model that we have is full fee recovery. Whether the board again wants to subsidize portions of that, such as Pierce County does, out of the general fund and other counties do. So that is really as part of the conversation that we're going to be bringing to you. So that is the steps that we're planning to take in relation to what Commissioner Edwards stated.
And a follow-up to that, Chair.
Yeah, just real quick, I just like to see when these proposals come forward from a citizen or elsewhere that they show exactly what cuts they want, what taxes they'd like us to raise to close the gap, or what employees they'd like us to, let go and, rehire, whether it's sheriffs or public health or public works, employees, where we're going to get the funds to make up the gap. Because the board decided well before I was on it to do a cost recovery. So that's the structure of the funding. And if we're going to change that and cut the fees by 50%, which was the proposal we got last week, then I guess we've got millions of dollars to find somewhere. We can raise taxes, but I'd like to see the proposals from those citizens that want to see the cuts in fees.
Can I comment?
Sure.
I think right now is probably a good time to review just what we are talking about reviewing, because actually we've got our biggest ending fund balance that we've ever had over the last couple of years now. And our sales tax revenue is phenomenal. It's way above what it's been in the past. So I think it is worth looking at helping these districts out, maybe reducing fees so we become competitive with other jurisdictions or closer to being competitive. I don't have any reasons that I can say I can put my finger on as to why we are so far out of line from everybody else, but I'd sure like to hear that somewhere down the road. So I'll just let it go at that. Thank you.
Commissioner Mejia.
So I think it's a good time to review the fees, but like Commissioner Menser said, I mean, we have to look where we're going to subsidize these fees from, you know, what we're losing. Because sure, we have a bigger ending balance this year and we have higher tax rate, but that's not going to be long term.
Right.
And what's going to happen in a year where there's not enough? What's going to happen, right? If we're going to cut it, our books have to match every year. We have to think long term here in order to have financial stability. So I do, you know, I do believe we need to have a fee assessment, but I don't want to just start cutting fees if we're not really going to have a good ending budget at the end of the year. And we might this year and we might next year, but how about the years after that? The purpose of this is for our county to be in a good financial stability, that we're not panicking last minute and trying to get money out of the air. So that's just my position on things. I think we have to think long term about this and how we can keep afloat long term.
It sounds like we've got more to come on that, Ramiro, with the
Commissioner, could I make a public service announcement?
Sure.
As you know, we have a plan for mass vaccination clinics starting tomorrow at South Puget Sound Community College, on Saturday, on Sunday, and also Monday. Tomorrow, we have set aside for seniors to focus on vaccinated seniors over 65. We have opened the appointments, and there's still a lot of appointments that needs to be filled. So we need the seniors to get in, and please, if you don't have access to an email, internet, the phone number is, Commissioner Mejia, you got it up, 360.
360-867-2610.
2610. Please do that. Also, I would like to encourage members of the public, if you have the time, to be on a waiting list. Because the objective also, we are not going to be wasting any vaccines over this weekend. So that's my public announcement.
Ramiro, I have a follow-up question on that. Do we know how many vaccines are available? We can make a post right now and start shooting it up.
The objective is to vaccinate 1,000, to issue 1,000 vaccines a day. Right now, we have 600 appointments have been filled for tomorrow, so we're still 480 open. So that's a little close to 1,100 vaccines. Sorry.
Okay.
So we have 480 appointments available for tomorrow for all seniors over 65 who would like to get vaccinated. Please, please help us with those clinics.
Ty?
Yes, sir.
Could I make a comment on that? I'm hoping that we have been maintaining a list of seniors that have been attempting to get vaccinated, and for one reason or another, were not able to accomplish that reservation, if you will. And so many of these seniors, I'm finding out, do not have the computer access to get this information or sign up. So I'm hoping we've got a list that we can call these people back and let them know that, hey, you couldn't get in this time or this time, but this weekend we're still have openings. I'm hoping we're communicating with those seniors that do not have the technical abilities. You know the answer to that?
You heard Megan? The answer is yes.
No. Oh, I did not hear Megan.
Yeah,
No, we can't hear Megan.
the answer is yes. And Megan is going to tell you all the details.
Oh, okay, good.
Megan Porter, Public Information Supervisor. I just wanted to give you an update. So last week alone, there were 224 calls into the helpline, and all of those that called in were able to get appointments last week. And so any that they're getting at the helpline, they set aside those 20% to make sure that those people who have access issues through the internet, and they've called that number, that they're calling them back and getting them appointments. So the answer to your question is yes.
Can you repeat the phone number, please?
360-867-2610. I have a follow-up question. Maybe can an email be sent out to our partner organizations, letting them know that there's still 480, so that way they can communicate with their clients and let them know in case they have people still. And maybe Megan, I see her coming back up, so probably she already took care of it.
Yeah, so we're working on figuring out all avenues to get the information out to whoever is waiting in line for vaccinations. So that work is happening.
Thank you.
Chair, could I
Yep.
make a comment? I would suggest that we also recognize that there are a lot of individuals that are close to that 65 and older age group. And I think we should be encouraging those folks, it sounds like, to kind of be prepared to be in standby, if you will, because I certainly would hate to have anything go to waste. I mean, so that anybody that shows up, okay, you're 62 and your husband's 66 or whatever criteria you want to put in there, so that we can get as many shots and as many arms as possible.
I guess probably my mask is probably not working very well on the microphone. That was part of my second announcement, to actually get into the waiting list, because the objective is not to waste any vaccines.
But we have to follow the governor's criteria.
But also within the governor's criteria, obviously. But, you know, if for any reason somebody signs up in the waiting list and if we have any leftovers and we see the risk of, certainly we're going to be contacting them. Yeah.
Okay.
Out of curiosity, I know Thurston County residents that have gone to other counties for appointments. Is that happening in the reverse as well? Can people sign up from out of county to Thurston County appointment?
Yes, because we're not tracking in terms of addresses. We're just tracking in terms of eligibility.
Yeah. Okay. I was just curious. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, it's 11:15. Do we have any other commissioner items to address this morning? I don't have anything. So.
I guess with nothing earth shaking.
Okay.
Nothing.
Okay. Anything, Ramiro or Robin?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Then I guess we'll see each other next week. I don't think there's another board joint briefing this week.
No, I think, yeah, no, not a joint board meeting.
Okay, well, see everybody Tuesday morning. Thank you. We're adjourned.
Thank you.